How's everyone doing today? Welcome back to On The Ball. Welcome back to another Premier League review show where we review each and every Premier League game. Obviously, the follow-on show from our prediction show as well, where we predict each and every game. We have a scoring system as well, which currently is 324 to Sim, 322 to me. And if you're new here, the way the scoring works, it's 5 points for a completely correct scoreline, 1 point for a correct result. And the star man, once you pick that man, you can't pick them again for the rest of the season. 5 points for a goal, 2 points for an assist. Let's get into the weekend's action, starting off at Old Trafford. It finished 2-0 to Manchester United. 2 penalties on the day for Manchester United. Sim went for 2-1. I went for 1-1. And I felt Man United got so lucky in this game once again. I mean, how many times have we sat here and spoken about Man United wins, saying they've got lucky? 2 penalties. I thought Everton were really unlucky not to score. Probably should have done on the day. And I felt like Man United got away with one.
Yeah, Everton missed a number of chances, especially in the first half, where I felt United got those 2 penalties, which I thought they were penalties, to be fair. I thought Garnacho was fouled for both of them. I mean, you could argue maybe it's soft, but I definitely think in the first one there was definitely contact from Tarkowski, and the second one was a clear penalty. So I don't think they can feel hard done by from that. But I think it's the story of Everton's season in terms of getting chances and not taking full advantage of them. It's literally happened from like the first few games, and now we're sitting here game week 28, and it's still happening. So Calvert-Lewin, I mean, obviously he didn't start, did he? I think Beto started, but he hasn't scored now in like about 8 months or something ridiculous like that. Beto hasn't really done the job since he's come in for Everton. I think he's scored maybe 1 goal, maybe 2 goals since he's come in. So they're really lacking in firepower. And for whatever you want to say about Everton, they went for a really good period, when they got that points deduction, but they haven't won since mid-December now, and we're sitting here nearly mid-March. So it's a long time without winning a game. And luckily for them, the results around them have still been inconsistent, so they're still outside the relegation zone. But if Luton win their game in hand in midweek, they're only 1 point behind, and then the alarm bells will really be ringing for Everton.
Yeah, and Luton are well within their powers to win the game midweek against a team that also maybe isn't playing well at the moment in I think it's Bournemouth, isn't it?
Bournemouth away,
they just drew with...
Sorry, Bournemouth at home, sorry. Yeah.
They just drew with Sheffield United, which we'll get into in a minute. So, it's not beyond all realms of possibility that Luton go and win this in midweek. And you've got a couple of teams that are going to be really dragged into it. You're looking at Forest, Everton, Brentford, but Everton just can't buy a win at the moment. As much as they are performing well in some games, they need to put those points on the board.
What plays in their favour, though, is if you look at their remaining games, they've got Burnley at home, Forest at home, Brentford at home, and Sheffield United at home. So they'll be looking at those fixtures thinking, yes, we're in a bad position, but if we get those wins, if they just win those home games, they should be all right.
Yeah, but it's no guarantee with the way that they can't put away their chances. Like you said, they haven't won since December time, early December time. So nothing's a guarantee at the moment. So they need to, instead of saying, all right, we can win these games, actually go and win them and put the points on the board.
Yep. So definitely they're in trouble. From Man United's perspective, obviously, they got the win, still not convincing. Also, they did get a clean sheet, which was positive for them. But look, they're still 6 points off Spurs, who were in 5th, and Spurs have a game in hand as well. So I think they were looking like going to be involved in the top 4 race. I mean, with that win, it keeps them still there. But I mean, it's going to need an almighty collapse from Villa and Tottenham, and Man United are going to have to go on some run to claw that gap, I think.
Yeah, I can't see it. I've said it all season that I don't really think they have it within them to go and do it. They've got difficult fixtures coming up as well. They go to Brentford next, Chelsea away after that, Liverpool at home after that. So you've got 3 difficult games on the bounce for Man United now.
And they end the season at home to Arsenal, away to Brighton. So yeah, they've got very, very tough fixtures still to play. So I don't see them having that consistency. And if anything, I see them being dragged more into a top 6 battle than cementing top 4.
Totally agree. Next up is Bournemouth against Sheffield United. We finished 2-2 on the day at the Vitality. Sim went 3-0. I went 4-0. How wrong were we? Sheffield United take the lead 2-0 in this game. And it was a last gasp to claw it back from Bournemouth 2-2. But I got to tell you what, Sheffield United were lucky to be ahead 1-0. They were lucky to be ahead 2-0. Bournemouth pretty much pumped them for 90 minutes, just couldn't put the ball in the back of the net.
Yeah, and I think they'll be disappointed that they gave Sheffield United that 2-goal advantage, because in that last half an hour, Bournemouth could have scored 4 or 5 goals, and I think Solanke obviously missed a penalty in the first half at 0-0, skied it with a horrible slip, and then he had a goal ruled out as well for a handball, which would have put them back in the game. And Bournemouth obviously did get back in through Utara scored, and then Unal got a last-minute equaliser, but they'll be kicking themselves with some of the chances they missed in that game because they should have been out of sight before Sheffield United, got in the ascendancy. From Sheffield United's point of view, showed a bit of fight. Obviously, they got the lead through Hamer, and then I think Robinson from a corner made it 2-0. And at that point, you're thinking, okay, this could be a very interesting result. But the fact they couldn't hang on to it is just another nail in their coffin if there wasn't enough nails in their coffin. So obviously, from Sheffield United's point of view, devastating. They couldn't hang on to that 2-goal advantage. But Bournemouth were kicking themselves that they allowed this game to get to 2-2.
Yeah, I think it's shocking from Bournemouth, to be honest, when you're looking at going 2-0 down at home to Sheffield United. They just got to put the ball in the back of the net, and they just weren't clinical enough on the day, and that's what let them down, to be so yeah, let's move on to Crystal Palace against Luton. It finished 1-1. Both of us went for 2-1 to Palace, and this was a real old-fashioned tale of a game of two halves, really. I thought Palace were so dominant in that first half, could have been more than 1-0 ahead. Mateta puts them 1-0 up with inside 10 minutes, and I thought Luton came back really strong in that second half, and they got what they deserved for their performance, and a goal in the last minute by Cauley Woodrow.
Yeah, I think credit to Luton because they didn't give up, even though they were losing against a revitalised Palace side under Glasner, and they could have easily been out of sight in that first half, but they kind of dug deep, made sure that the advantage wasn't too big. I mean, the goal they did concede was a massive error. I think I remember they I can't remember who went through, but the Luton player plays it backwards, and the Palace, Muniz, he nicks it off the Luton player. He goes down the right hand side, takes it past the keeper, and what a flick that was from Arteta. Credit to him, because that wasn't an easy finish. But I mean, for all the credit he gets for that goal, he missed an absolute sitter when again a Luton player gives it away on the edge of the area. Mateta goes through on goal and chips the keeper and misses the target. And I think that goal goes in, Palace probably win the game. That he missed. Luton going at a half-time only one down, and they ended up getting the equaliser and getting a really good point. And that point it could be very vital come the end of the season, because that keeps them kind of only 3 points now behind Forest. I'm not sure if the goal difference there. I think they're still quite behind in goal difference, but still, if they can go level on points in midweek, what a massive game that is for Luton. I think they've been looking at this game in hand for a long time, and they need to take full advantage. I think if they don't win that game in hand, that'll be a big psychological blow to them. But if they get the win, I think they can maybe take that momentum into the last 10 games. Yeah,
if they win, they go a minimum of level goal difference with Nottingham Forest. So it'll be a massive, massive victory if Luton can get it in midweek. And I don't back against them. It's anyone's game in midweek against a Bournemouth side that, I don't know, just not playing as they were when they were in full pomp a couple of months ago. Because then again, look at Bournemouth. They've only had like one win since December or something like that, which after that really good run of form that kind of separated them from the guys at the bottom, they've been a bit lackluster, to be honest. And you're looking at Luton, and I think that they're missing Adebayo massively. They don't look the same outfit without Adebayo, so they need to find a way to get points on the board without him. But it's going to be an interesting game, that's for sure.
In terms of Palace under Glasgow, 3 games, 1 win, 1 draw, 1 loss.
No manager bounce.
I mean, they're definitely playing better, aren't they? But yeah,
results haven't really materialised yet. But I think they'll be all right this season. They'll stay in the Premier League. Give him a pre-season, give him a transfer window, and see what he can do. Next up is Wolves against Fulham, which finished 2-1 to Wolves on the day. Sim went for 2-1 to Fulham. I went for 1-0 to Wolves, so I get a point on the board for this one. I thought Fulham were really unlucky in this game, and Wolves do take the victory. Pedro Neto going off injured just before the break with another hamstring injury. Does that put to bed maybe a big move this summer for him? Our team's going to take that risk?
Depends how serious it is. I guess they have to wait and see. But maybe if it's another serious injury, I think people are going to balk at that big price that Wolves are going to be asking for in the summer. But in terms of the game, I think Wolves, they kind of got away with one. The 2 goals they scored were very scrappy. Nuri put them ahead, and then Semedo with a big deflection off Tom Kearney. The ball was going way off target and deflects past Leno, and all of a sudden they're 2-0 up. And I think Fulham can consider themselves really unlucky that they didn't get any points out of this game, because they had a host of chances. Wolves were kind of defending very deep, and they were playing their usual way, but they were just very lucky to have got that advantage, and they probably didn't deserve it. But when you're defending deep against a Fulham side, I know they've been scoring a few goals recently, but you know that if you basically restrict them from that space, it's going to be very difficult for them to open you up, because they do lack a bit of quality in that front line. And I think they got that consolation goal late on, but it was too little too late for Fulham. But I think Fulham definitely deserved something out of the game, and they'll be kicking themselves that Wolves kind of got those 2 scrappy goals, and if what wasn't for that, it would be really, really disappointing for Fulham.
I've been really impressed with Fulham of late. I think the last 3 or 4 weeks they've been playing really well. Obviously went to Old Trafford and won. Last week they got an impressive victory as well. I think Marco Silva's got to be commended on the job he's done this season. Everyone was tipping them for relegation, or even close to relegation, after losing Mitrovic and replacing him with Raul Jimenez. And look at the job he's done. It's quite remarkable, to be honest.
Yeah, got them in mid-table, kind of pushing the top half. Probably won't make it, but you never know considering the form they're on. But for Wolves' point of view, puts them into 9th. They're only now 2 points behind West Ham in 7th, which is very impressive. I mean, if he could sneak into Europe, he's up there for manager of the season.
Yeah, I think he's there. And I really like Gary O'Neill. I was saying at the beginning of the season, I thought it was a smart appointment for Wolves. I like the job he did at Bournemouth as well. He was in the running for manager of the year last year for Bournemouth, and he got the sack. And I really like Gary O'Neill as a manager. And if he can have another good season next year with Wolves and push them even further up the table, do you think he gets a big job?
Based on what I'm seeing from him, look, he's doing fantastic, but would any of the big clubs want to play like Wolves are playing?
But maybe he's playing like that because of what he has at his disposal.
Maybe, but he's had to do that at Bournemouth and Wolves. So, I mean, you look at Iraola, he's playing in a different way. I'm not saying he's done better. I'm just saying it's a different kind of football. And I don't think the big clubs want to play in that kind of way. So, I mean, unless he can show a different side to his game, I don't know if he gets a big job. But I'm still maybe not a big job, but maybe like something like West Ham. You know, that could be something that could be a decent appointment.
But then again, we're sitting here saying that West Ham need to play open and more front foot and expansive football, and that's why they don't want to keep David Moyes.
Yeah, but I think he's a bit more like difference between O'Neill and Moyes is happier not to like press the opposition. Gary O'Neill does like sit deep and like to counter, but he does have a decent mid block where he can press the opposition at a fairly decent rate. Not into the level of like top teams, but better than teams like West Ham. But it's interesting. They're 6 points off 6th. I wonder if they're thinking, are they dreaming of top 6? Do you reckon?
Yeah, they'll be dreaming. They'll have high ambitions, but I just feel Man U will just about do enough to get that 6th spot. But I wouldn't count them against finishing ahead of Brighton and West Ham and sneaking into that Conference League spot.
Especially with no Europe, yep.
Next up, we go to the Emirates. It finished 2-1 to Arsenal against Brentford. Sim went for 3-1. I went for 4-0. And it wasn't that battering that that I was expecting at the Emirates. Kai Havertz with a late winner in the 86th minute. Aaron Ramsdale started the game, and he showed why maybe he has been back up to David Raya so far this season, with a shocking mistake to let Brentford back in the game on the stroke of half-time. Declan Rice carrying on his great form in front of goal, getting a goal and putting Arsenal ahead in the opening 20 minutes. But then again, Aaron Ramsdale kind of saved them in the second half, didn't he?
Well, really good save at 1-1. If that goes in, I don't know. I don't think Arsenal win the game. I think Brentford had played really well. I feel really bad for them because, again, I think we're sitting at the end of another game where they've had a really good performance, where they've got nothing to show for it. And I thought they were really unlucky, considering I thought Arsenal obviously were the better team in the first half, but Brentford did drag themselves level, obviously, with that whistle goal. Bad mistake from Ramsdale. But I think in that second half, Arsenal did really struggle to create chances and open up Brentford. And I thought it looked like, to be honest, that it was going to be a really good day for Brentford. But obviously, that Kai Havertz goal right at the end cost them the points. But there's a big question: should Kai Havertz have been on the pitch? Because
definitely not.
He took a major dive, I thought, in that second half. Referee spotted that it wasn't a foul, but he didn't give the second yellow, which I thought was very, very lucky, because it wasn't one of those where he went down easily or something like that. The guy was the challenge was nowhere near him, and he just take a major dive, and it was a clear non-penalty. And I think the referee bottled that decision. I think he should have given him a second yellow, and Havertz should have been off. And I think if he gets sent off at that moment, obviously he's not there to score the winner. So I think Arsenal on that point were lucky to win it even with him on the pitch, but we're lucky that Havertz didn't get sent off as well.
And these are the way things go. He should have been sent off, and he goes on to win, to score the winner. And Thomas Frank was very angry about after the game, and he has every right to be, because I think it was a shocking decision. You go back to the Spurs game, I think it was against Luton, when Bissouma gets was it Luton? Yeah, Bissouma gets sent off for a dive for a second yellow card. So I don't understand why that wasn't given. I think it was shocking, but there was other questionable decisions on the day as well. Arsenal potentially could have had a penalty with the pullback on Trossard. What did you make of that one?
Yeah, I've seen it back. I mean, I guess there's a case for it because he's got an arm on his shoulder and there's a bit of a pull, but I think those ones are pretty soft. I don't think he's getting the ball anyway. So, I mean, Arsenal can complain a bit about it, but I don't think it was a massive flashpoint. I think the Havertz one was a bigger decision.
Yeah, I agree with that. And let's move on to the big top four clash at Villa Park. It finished Villa 0, Tottenham 4, as Sim went for 3-1, I went for 2-1, both to Tottenham. So we both get a point on the board, but I thought it was a spectacular display for Spurs, potentially best Spurs display of the season. First half was a bit of a bit even. I felt Villa were getting their chances through Spurs mistakes. Spurs were creating openings but not really creating any clear-cut chances, but that all changed in the second half, didn't it?
Yeah, Tottenham really took the game by the scruff of the neck. They really started to open Villa up and played that beautiful football that we know they're capable of, that we've seen this season, and Villa kind of had no answer to it. I think Emery went into this game with more of a don't lose mentality than go and win the game, and that must be very disappointing for Villa fans who they've seen when Villa at home against big teams, when they've really taken the game to them, they can be hard to stop. And the fact that he came into this game with a kind of cautious approach must be very frustrating. But Tottenham took full advantage of it, and they scored 4 brilliant goals, 4 brilliant finishes. And also what might be even worse for Villa in this game is their captain John McGinn with the red card, and he's now missing 3 games. And Watkins said after the game, if you offered me a loss but we keep McGinn, I probably would have taken that. And the fact that he's missing is maybe even a bigger blow than the result, because they've already got Kamara missing for the rest of the season, and they've got 3 big games coming up, and the fact that he's going to be missing in those games is a massive blow. So how that affects him in the top 4 race, I mean, it could be very, very negative.
Yeah, he's been a massive pillar of what they've been doing this season. He's been incredible throughout the whole season, John McGinn, so it's a massive loss for them. I just thought Unai Emery was a bit guilty of overthinking things this weekend. We've seen, like you mentioned, the performances they've had at home against the Man Cities, the Arsenals, getting the points on the board, playing the way that they've been playing all season, and they went and changed things up just to try stifle Spurs instead of actually going to attack them and play the football that they know they can play. So I think Unai Emery is known as a master tactician, but he got outdone in this game, that's for sure.
Yeah, and Spurs now 2 points behind Villa in the race for the top 4 with a game in hand. So Tottenham firmly now in a good position. I know both sides have tough run-ins, so obviously no guarantees with either side that they'll about drop points and where the points will be picked up. But that kind of performance, I think psychologically, is going to be a massive boost for Spurs going away top 6 side and just battering them like that with all their players now coming back from injury. I think that's going to be a major confidence boost for Spurs, and I think I wouldn't be surprised if hopefully they go on a bit of a run now.
Yeah, let's hope so. And we've definitely got the fixtures to do it. These next 4 fixtures, they're not give me games. No games are in the Premier League, but they definitely are winnable games over the next 4 games. So I think Spurs need to go on a run now. And I think if we do go on a run, we could really put daylight in between us and Aston Villa. But let's go on to the Amex. It finished 1-0 to Brighton against Nottingham Forest. Sim went for 2-1 to Forest. I went for 3-2 to Brighton. It wasn't the amount of goals that we were all expecting, but Brighton did get 3 points on the board, and I get myself 1 point on the board. And I think Brighton were fairly good in the first half. They got their goal through an own goal from I can't pronounce his name.
Omodeli, I think.
Omodeli. And after when half time came, I thought Nottingham Forest were the better of the 2 sides, but they just couldn't get that goal.
Yeah, I thought, I don't know if Elanga's injured, but I think not starting him and not starting potentially Callum Hudson-Odoi was a bit of a disappointment, because you think against this Brighton side, if you can hit them in transition, you have someone like Elanga.
They both came on, and Awoni came on as well.
So I don't know why he doesn't start Elanga, who's been in great form this season. That was probably why they kept getting penned in that first half. They didn't really have an out ball. And Brighton really took advantage from set pieces, and that'll be a massive oversight for Nuno as well. But Nuno, after the game, I don't know if you saw, he was absolutely furious because Moda puts in a challenge. I think it was at 1-0. He puts in a really bad challenge, goes flying in, catches, I think, gives White on the top of the ankle, and referee only gives a yellow card. VAR doesn't get involved as well. And Nuno accused the referee of hating them. He said, why do people hate us, he said, because I think it's arguably the third time they haven't had a red card intervention when they should have had, and he's getting very frustrated. But those are the kind of words of someone who seems very worried that they're getting dragged into a relegation battle, in my opinion. But look, I do think he has a case, because it should have been a red card, in my opinion, from Moda.
Yeah, to be honest, I didn't see that action. But in terms of if Forest are getting dragged into it, they are massively getting dragged into it. 3 points clear of Luton, with Luton having a game in hand, with that happening on Wednesday, like we spoke about before. I think Forest are bang in trouble. I really do. I
mean, I think they've got if I look at their team, they definitely have the players to get out of it for sure. But if I look at their remaining fixtures, I mean, it doesn't make for pretty reading. You've still got City to come. They have to go away to Spurs as well. But they also do have 2 away games against Sheffield United and Burnley to come. So
Burnley is their last game of the season.
Yeah, Burnley last game of the season. I doubt Burnley will still be in the running by then, but they've also got next week Luton away.
Wow.
What a massive game that is, considering if Luton as well win their game in hand. That could be a game where they go above Forest.
The thing is, even if Luton don't win their game in hand, that could be, imagine Luton go to Forest and win, and then they go above them. Then even if Luton lose their game in hand, Luton still have the opportunity to go above them next week.
Yeah, I think if Luton can get a draw, that gives them an advantage to go above, doesn't it? So even if they lose by, let's say, 1-0, the goal difference could work in their favour going into it next week. Yeah, that is a real 6-pointer I've ever seen one.
Yeah, absolutely. But let's go to the London Stadium. It finished 2-2 West Ham against Burnley. Sinwen and myself both went for 3-1 to West Ham. And look, I do think West Ham probably deserved the victory in this game. Created enough chances, but I just thought it was a really shocking performance from them. It was a bit similar to the Bournemouth game, but not to the extent of how well Bournemouth played and how many goals Bournemouth should have had. But Burnley go 2-0 up before half-time, and West Ham get it back in the last 15 minutes. Yeah,
I think they paid for a really bad first half performance, They were shocking that first half. Really gave Burnley the advantage. Burnley found it almost too easy. I mean, albeit they did score 2 goals from Fofana with an unbelievable strike from about 30 yards. What a goal that was. And he's actually been in really good form, to be fair to him, since he's joined Burnley on loan. So maybe he's making Chelsea think why they let him go, because he's been playing really well. And then obviously they got an own goal through Mavropanos. And then, but to be fair to West Ham, they did rally in the second half. They put on a bit of a show to try and get back in the game, and obviously they got the 2 late goals. And I feel bad for Ings, because he came on, he got his goal, he had a goal rule off offside, and then he hit the bar as well in the 90th minute. So he had a real big impact when coming off the bench, and
then he
could have been the match winner. I said he scored, and he had a real big impact. And obviously, he did hit the bar right at the end. But then Burnley had a shot cleared off the line right at the end as well, so they could have easily won it right at the end. So I think West Ham they've created enough chances to win 2 games in that last 20 minutes or so, but they also might be coming away with it feeling, we could have easily conceded right at the last minute as well.
We need to talk about Calvin Phillips, because what the hell has happened to him? Star of the England setup not so long ago, goes to Man City. Pep Guardiola calls him fat. It seems to have knocked every sort of confidence out of him. He plays this game. He gets hauled off at half-time after another shocking performance from him.
Yeah, and it's really been a bit of a nightmare, hasn't it, for Calvin Phillips? So he really needs to have a big last 10 games if he's going to have any future at West Ham. And looks like at this point, he's pretty much been shocking ever since he's gone there. And then if he finds his way back to City, then he's back at square one. He has to find a new club. So it's been a terrible loan spell so far for him.
Yeah, and you kind of think, what comes next now? Because I don't, if he carries on this form, I don't think West Ham take up the option to buy him. Man City don't want him. So what kind of club does he go to?
Yeah, he might have to set his sights even lower. higher than West Ham, which would be unbelievable to think when he got that big move to City that would be the case. In terms of Burnley, though, I mean, both clubs at the bottom of the table this weekend had 2-0 leads and gave them up, and that's probably why they're in the position they're in. They just can't seem to get those wins. They just, for love no money, they can't get the wins, and yet again, Burnley give up the advantage. But to be fair, I did think they played well in spells, but it's the same case of Burnley. Pretty football, but can't keep the back door closed.
Yeah. Let's go on to the biggest game of the weekend, which was Liverpool against Man City in their title clash. Both of us went for 1-1. Both of us went for 2-2, but it did finish 1-1. A really good, high-quality game of football this was. I thought Man City started the game really strong, got that goal with a really clever corner, wasn't it? That found John Stones at the front post. Man City, I thought they were the much better team in the first half, but Liverpool came out in the second half firing. They really did, and I thought they definitely should have won the game in terms of what they showed in that second half. But then again, Man City did have their own chances in the second half with Jeremy Doku hitting the post.
Yeah, one of the games of the season, you have to say, ferocious, aggressive, intense. It was a proper game against two of the best quality teams in the league at the moment, and you have to give it to both teams for how they performed, because I thought it was exhilarating. It was a real fantastic game of football, one of the games of the season. So I think both teams will be coming away with it with regrets with the chances they missed. I think more probably Liverpool, because I think they did have the more clear-cut chances. I think they'll be kicking themselves that they didn't. I think especially Luis Diaz, who must have had about 3 or 4 real big chances, which he just couldn't stick away. Nunez as well had a couple. But they did obviously find the moment with the penalty and get back in the game. Really well taken by McAllister. And then from that point, it was literally a basketball game at that point for the last half an hour or so, where both teams were going at it. Both teams had chances, but the big talking point was the last kick of the game.
100%.
How was that a penalty?
100%.
Doku kicking McAllister.
100%. I think it's ridiculous that wasn't given. Like, how can you go up that high, studs up, and nothing being given? It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
In such a big game as well. I think Liverpool have every right to feel aggrieved with that. I think it was a disgusting challenge from Doku.
Yeah, I think Doku massively gets away with it. I don't know why the referee doesn't point to the spot. His foot is really high. He doesn't get a clean contact on the ball. He studs McAllister right in the chest. I don't see how that isn't a penalty. I don't know why VAR doesn't get involved as well. But the referee had a really clear view of it, so I'm really perplexed as to why that was not given. I think it was very, very lucky from Man City's point of view. They didn't give a penalty away right at the last minute. But because of that draw and Arsenal's win, Arsenal now end the weekend top of the table, which is where they won it, only on goal difference. But they're the winners in this result, aren't they?
They are, but they go to the Etihad up next, so the big games don't stop here. So I think with Man City, if they take that win against Arsenal at the Etihad, I think they become clear favourites to win the title. However, if Arsenal get a win at the Etihad, I think they become clear favourites.
If they get the win, yeah, I mean, they probably do. But to be fair to Liverpool, credit to them, because you look at their team, Salah wasn't starting. They had Quansah starting at centre-back. I think Joe Gomez starting at left-back. And to put in a performance like that home to Man City with all those players missing is a testament to Klopp and that team he's built, because they were absolutely brilliant and they should have won. And they had so many players missing. So, for me, that shows me if they're once they get all those players back as well, if they're still performing like that, they're going to take some stopping as well.
Yeah, absolutely. But I did think in the opening stages of the game, first 20 minutes, half an hour, they did get overawed by the occasion a little bit. And I felt like Man City could have been 1 or 2 up, but they got themselves back into the game and ended the game the stronger, that's for sure. And last but not least, Chelsea against Newcastle. It finished 3-2 to Chelsea. Sim went for 2-2. I went for 2-1 to Newcastle, so no points on the board for either of us on this one. This was a really good game of football last night. I think it was a game that toed and froed. Chelsea go 1-0 up quite early with Nicholas Jackson, who can't seem to stop scoring at the moment. Newcastle equalised just before half-time, and then Chelsea scored 2 goals. I thought that third goal was a bit against the run of play for Chelsea, and then obviously Newcastle get a goal right at the end, and a couple of really good goals in this game. Jacob Murphy right at the end with a really nice strike, and Mykhailo Mudryk taking it around pretty much the whole Newcastle team.
Yeah, brilliant goal from him, maybe showing flashes of his ability. I thought Isaac's goal as well was excellent.
Yeah, that's true.
Excellent finish on the stroke of half-time. Really great finish into the corner. But Newcastle will be frustrated because they had their moments in this game where they were on top and they didn't take full advantage of it. But I think Chelsea deserved the victory at the end of the day. I think they were looking the more dangerous team. I think when in their spells where they were on top, they were creating more chances and looking more dangerous. And obviously Cole Palmer with another brilliant display. And I think he's now level for goal contributions with Jude Bellingham, which is for players under 21 in Europe at the moment. That's an incredible achievement considering how much praise Bellingham's been getting this season, and now Palmer's level with him. So I think that just goes to show what an amazing season Palmer's been having this season, and another brilliant goal from him from outside the box, and another brilliant display, and a really important win for Chelsea to get back on track and not let that negative feeling set in since that Carabao Cup final loss. So really important for Pochettino. But Eddie Howe looked like they were back on track last week with a really good win against Wolves, but another setback for them.
Yeah, massive step back for Newcastle. And you kind of look at the league table now and you're thinking, are they even going to get European football next year after the, finishing fourth last season in this sensational season they did have? They've hit 40 points, so we know they're not going down now. But they are 7 points behind Manchester United in sixth. And I don't know, can you see them getting any form of European football, potentially Conference League? But I can't see Europa League.
I mean, they just lack so much consistency. I mean, if they can... I mean, Gordon now apparently has got a significant injury, so that's another player that is going to be missing for a while.
Dan Burn got off injured as well yesterday.
Dan Burn. So I just don't know if they'll have the consistency. But then again, who does have the consistency in that race to last the distance? So I think they'll back themselves to be above Wolves, I think, and maybe Brighton as well. But I think there's a chance Chelsea potentially make a late run. The West Ham are there or thereabouts, and Man United are still there. So I think top six is a bit of a stretch. I still think they look at that, only 3 points off 7, so they're still well in that race. So I reckon they can still do it, to be honest.
It's going to be a big battle because there's just so many teams going for that one spot in seventh. I do think Man United will get that 6th spot. So it's just about like Chelsea, Newcastle, Wolves, Brighton, West Ham all going for that 7th spot. And who's going to come out on top? I don't know. Who's your money on? Newcastle?
I'm going to go with West Ham.
Really, West Ham?
Yeah, I just think they've got that front four. If they keep them fit, I think they'll just win enough games to do it. Because I just think they have the best front four there.
I wouldn't back against Chelsea, 39 points with a game in hand to put themselves on 42, which will be level with Brighton and 1 point behind West Ham. I think when you're looking at the qualities of the teams, and I actually think Chelsea might have it in them to get that Conference League spot.
Oh, we'll see.
But we finish off with the Star men. Sim went for Semenyo at home to Sheffield United, got nothing. And I went for Pascal Gross at home to, I can't remember who Brighton played, Forest, and also got nothing.
Although he did assist the own goal.
Assisted the own goal, but unfortunately that doesn't count as an assist. So we end up even closer this week than we did last week. There's 1 point in it, 328 to 327. Let me know your thoughts of the games over the weekend in the comment section below. We'll be back on Thursday for a very small episode. There's only 4 fixtures this weekend in the Premier League. But thank you everyone for joining us today, and we'll see you next time.